In this video, I want to go over a web browser known as the Sidekick Web Browser. Now, if you found this video on YouTube, I will provide a link below the video where it shows you how to install the actual browser and gives you more information and has some links, so if you're using a variety of different operating systems. Now, I'm using Ubuntu Mate 20.0 for the long-term support, and I'm using the traditional menu. To access it, you go to Applications, Internet, and as you can see here, here's the Sidekick Web Browser. Now I already have it minimized on my taskbar because I have it logged in with my Bitwarden. That way I wouldn't have to show my login credentials even though the password shows little dots. But if you look here, let me give you a brief description of what Sidekick is, and then I'll show you how to install it on a Ubuntu or Ubuntu Mate or any of the Ubuntu derivatives or Debian based systems. Now you can also install it on Fedora that uses the RPMs, and I'll show you that as well. And for the Windows users and Mac users, you can also install it on those operating systems. But let's take a look at what the Sidekick browser is. Sidekick is based on Chromium, so it's one of the Chromium based browsers, which there's many of them, and it's designed to be one of the fastest online work experience. And this is the key word. I really should have bolded that. It's made for the working environment, the business environment, because as you can see here, I've just set it up as a personal web browser, and I kind of use the online apps as kind of like little speed dials like you would see on most other browsers like Vivaldi and other type of browsers that has speed dials. But it does have a sidebar on the side that you can install multiple apps and choose whatever apps that you or your company may use. And I'll show you more about that in just a moment. Its user experience, UX, is built around the most popular web apps, and it supports multiple logins. So if you have several different accounts, you can actually log in to multiple accounts without logging out, and that's something that makes this a very powerful browser. It uses workspace to keep the tab clutter under control, so it uses sessions. Now let's take a look at how you would install Sidekick. And the browser that you actually see me using is the Sidekick browser, so I'm not going to be installing it for the first time. I just have the screen captures of the installation process. So I'd have a link here that you can click onto that takes you to download Sidekick. I guess their main operating system they focus on is the Mac with the Intel chip, the Mac with the Apple chip. How do you find your chip? You can read the information. If you have other platforms like a Windows system, as you can see here, here's the two different Mac downloads like you have here, and here's where Ubuntu and Debian based systems can download the deb file and use your package installer for your system. And if you don't have a package installer that works by double clicking and installs it very quickly, you can install GDebi, and I have the information on my website. And if you are on Fedora or any other Linux distribution that uses the RPM extension, you can download the RPM file. So let me go ahead and close this tab because I'm not going to download it. But from here, you click the download link, and since I chose the deb file, this was the file that was downloaded at the time of making this web page. So that's the version right here, 90.10.12. That's the version. So that's what the deb package looks like. So after I downloaded it, I went and opened my Kaha file manager. So you open your file manager, go to the location where you download it, use your package installer. And I said if you don't have GDebi, if you got Ubuntu based system, you can just copy that, put that in your terminal, and it will install GDebi package installer, which is my favorite installer for installing deb files. By double clicking that, it opens up the GDebi package installer. I click the install package. Once it does, it'll prompt you for your password. You put your password in and then wait. It'll bring up a little bar showing that it's installing, and wait till it says same version is already installed, and you might see the reinstall and remove package button before you close out the package installer. That way you won't mess up the installation process. Now you don't really need to keep that deb file, but some people like to keep the deb files to double click onto it so they can hit remove package. But you can remove it by that's the installation. If you later decide that you don't want it on your system, I have to show you how you can uninstall it. So you can download or you can delete the downloaded file, which was the deb package, because you can open your terminal, put that in your terminal, and it will remove the browser from your system. Now let me tell you something about this. If you do install it by using the deb file, it will try to install a Chrome into your source list. So when you go to update your computer and update your packages on your system, like if I go to software updater, it will give me an error. And if I open up my terminal and go sudo apt-get update, it will let me know that I have multiple places to where it's Chrome, where it's trying to download Chrome from. So what you need to do is to open up your terminal and put this into your terminal. So that way it's taking out the file that's installing to try to make sure that your Chrome stays up to date. It's like, almost like it puts a Chrome PPA into your, like a third-party PPA into your sourced list. And so if you've already got Chrome, it already has one, so it will create a duplicate version of the PPA, and it will create an error message. So if you have Chrome on your system, if you don't have Chrome on your system, it's not going to hurt, and it's not going to install Chrome. It's just so that it will keep Chrome updated. So you need to put that in a terminal and remove it. Once that you've got it installed, if you're using the traditional menu as I do, or if you're using any other type menus, it will place an icon in your menu. As you can see, there's the Sidekick Web Browser. If for some reason it doesn't show up, you might need to reboot your system, and it should show up in your menu. Now, the first time you run Sidekick, this is what you'll see for the first time users. As you can see here, it does have a sidebar, and I've disabled or turned off the sidebar over here on the left, but I'll show you in just a moment, if you turn it off, how you can turn it back on. You can toggle it on and off. And I have installed some Chrome extensions. Because it's a Chromium based browser, that allows you to install the Chrome extensions within this particular browser. So the first time you open up the browser, it will go through a sign up process. It will say sign up to get the most out of Sidekick. I didn't want to create an account for Sidekick. It's almost like the other type browsers I've been covering, where it asked me to create an account for them. You know, I didn't do that as well. I'm just testing out browsers and showing people that's never heard of Sidekick how that if they want to, they can sign up for it. That way they'll have more use of things that they put on their sidebar. But in this case, I'm just going to use it as a browser, as a personal browser. If you're a company, a company business person, like the head CEO or the owner of a company, and you have multiple employees, I recommend you to sign up, and you can create an account for all your employees. That way you can give them access to applications so that you can collaborate very easily, because this is designed for the workplace. Now, the last browser that I covered, which was the Neverwell, this was kind of like more of an educational browser, the Neverwell. It's almost like Google Chrome and Google Classroom, where it's made for teachers to collaborate with students. The Sidekick browser is mainly for like the administrations, like for head people from the head office can communicate with the principals, and the principals can like collaborate with the teachers. So this is mainly a workplace type of collaboration. Now, you can also sign in with your Gmail account or your Microsoft account if you decide, or you can use whatever email address to sign up for. Now, I skip the process of signing up, but you do have to accept this privacy statement from them. So if you read the privacy statement, when you finish reading it, click Sounds Good in order to take you to the next step. Now, it will allow you to import your bookmarks and your history from a browser, your default browser that's on your system. You can import from, you can hit a drop down list and choose the browser that may be the default browser on your system. You can import all your bookmarks. I didn't want to import any bookmarks or any history. I wanted this browser to be a separate browser on its own. So there's a little light skip link that you can click, because if you accidentally click the blue one, it will start importing from the selected browser here. So be very careful. You know, most people when they install, they just click what's the default settings, and the default settings is to make it the default browser and to select the Chrome browser here by default. So I choose to skip. Then it's going to say, are you really sure? You know, it'll tell you the things that you're missing out, and I say, I understand. I skip anyway. Don't click the blue one, because it's going to try to not really trick you into importing them, but it's really wanting you to import them, so that way that you're using this as your default browser. As you can see here, you can customize it to whatever app's on the side, but we'll look at that in just a moment. So click I understand, skip anyway, and then it shows here you'll be prompted with your import your login data from other browsers. You can also choose to skip. You know, this is not your history. This is your login data. So if you have login accounts, and I no longer store my login account information within the browsers. I don't use password managers within browsers. Ever since like Google leaked out the usernames and passwords, and Microsoft did too, and someone got into my account, I no longer use that, and I change my password often. I now use a password manager, which is Bitwarden. You can use other password managers, but that's the one that I chose to use. So if I even chose to import from Chrome, it wouldn't import anything. I have no passwords stored in any browser anymore. I keep them within my password manager. However, if you're a company owner, you can create an account for your employees and create a password so that they can log in, and they'll see the little dots, but you might issue a password that they can't see but that allows them to log in. So if you're sharing like a bank account, they can look into the bank account, maybe make changes depending upon how you have it set up, but they can't see the password unless you let them. So it kind of gives you like an administrative use, and I can't show that because I don't have it set up as an administrator for a business owner. I set it up as a personal account. Now here's where you can, at this point in time during the setup stage, you can choose. When you choose them, it will be highlighted with a green dot. You can uncheck some of these and check some of these below, and this places the apps on the sidebar. You can always go in there and configure it later. It will let you know that you can go back in your settings and take things off the sidebar or add things to the sidebar later, and I'll even show you how you can turn the sidebar off completely, because that sidebar is kind of wide. It uses up a little bit of real estate on your browser, and if I don't use the sidebar as much, now for business purposes it's very quick and very handy to click those things that you use most often, so a business user may want to keep that sidebar visible. But I'll show you in just a moment, if you turn the sidebar off, how you can make it back visible. Now it says you're almost done. Here it's wanting you to make it the default browser. As I said earlier, it's trying to not really trick you, but really emphasize taking it from your default browser and making this your default, and then by choosing that. So just choose maybe later, so that way you can use the browser without making it the default browser. So if you click a link within a certain browser, it won't open up Sidekick as the default browser. Now if you always want to go back through the start, you can click this link here and it will take you back to that quick start, so you can watch a video that will give you a basic rundown on the Sidekick browser, especially from the more of a business purposes rather than a personal use. So it shows you how to set it up and how it's very powerful and user friendly. It teaches you more about the apps, how to place apps on the sidebar. You can go through here. It's got a lot of information that you can read. So I have a link, so if you close it out, you can go back to the quick start guide, and you can also go into help. There's two ways of getting help with here. You can go back, you can go to your About Sidekick, and you can choose to get help with Sidekick here. And there's like getting started, frequently asked questions, or you can search for what you're needing. And another way of getting help is kind of like, in Google Chrome, you can just put where it's got Chrome here. You're using Sidekick. You can open up another tab, paste it into there, and click getting help. So that's another way that you can get help with Sidekicks, is through your menu, which, as you can see here, since it's based off of Chromium, the menu looks very similar or almost identical to a Chromium browser or a Google Chrome browser. Now I don't have an icon here because I'm not currently logged in. I'm using this as a guest, so I didn't create an account. Now if you're used to using Google Chrome and Google Chromium browsers, you can go to the Chrome Web Store and search for your favorite extensions that you might use within Google Chrome, and you can install those here on the browser. Now these are some of the extensions that I do like using, which is uBlock. So I have the links here that you can install. Like I got uBlock, Popper Blocker, Privacy Badger, HTTPS Everywhere, and I did install the Translate just for the fact that if you're using it for business purposes, and you're communicating like overseas, you can translate the links that they may have to your desired default language. Now I do put Bitwarden here, but if you're using it for a business browser, you're probably not going to use Bitwarden, because the person setting up the administrator account can assign passwords to the user, so you won't be using a password manager here. You'll be using the account that you have created through Sidekick. So that's the difference in using it as a personal browser versus a company browser. Now when you finish, you can enable or disable that sidebar, and I'll show you in just a moment how you can do that. It's through, and let me click this here, and these are basically what your home screen looks like. I'm not hitting home here because I do have the information here. What you can do if you click these links at the bottom, and I'll hover over them like this right here, if you click, it just is a welcome sessions. You have your sessions that you can start. You can change your sessions, or you can save a session and later go back to it. So if you're working on something and it's time to go to lunch break or quit or something, you can save your session and come back to it and click, and it will restore your sessions that you were at. So that's clicking this link. This is a different settings. This settings is a little different than this settings. This is like your browser settings for your main browser settings like you would normally see in Google Chrome and Google. This is like a Sidekick settings that you can adjust the settings for like your home screen. So if you click this, and I do have this information on here that you can see image by image, so that way if you want to understand what these features are. By the first one on the left hand side is a theme, the appearance. You can make it a light theme, a dark theme, an auto theme. And an auto theme, like if you're using a dark theme on your system, it should automatically detect it. As you can see here, it blends in with my theme. So I chose auto. I could choose dark or I could choose light. If I went and chose the light theme and closed it and reopened it back up, it would have the light look. But I chose the auto theme. You can make the sidebar, I don't have it visible, but to show sidebar, here's where you can turn it off and on. I disabled or removed all the apps on the sidebar, and I kind of thought, well, that will remove it when there's no apps there. But then I remember these are kind of standard things that are on the sidebar. So when I realized that you turn the sidebar off and on, but with it on, you can make it small, you can make it medium, or you can make it large. So if you have eyesight problems or a gigantic monitor, you can make a large sidebar. I don't even like the sidebar, but like I said, for business purposes, it's very useful. So let me turn the sidebar off. You can say make the sidebar icons gray. Like if I did have icons that were on here that were colorful, that were different colors, I could switch this on so that they were all appear grayscale, kind of like the icons you see in the lower bottom. You can change the time format. As you can see here on the home page, there's a time clock here. It says 12:53. You can change it from I think the default is the 24-hour, or you can change it to the 12-hour mode. So you can toggle between 24 hours and 12 hours. You have multiple background images that you can scroll through and select. So I just scrolled through and clicked on one that had the Yosemite, looks like the Yosemite background. You can even shuffle through and choose shuffle, and it will pick a random background each time you open up your home page. So that's the appearance. The next thing, it does have a built-in ad blockers, and it's already blocked 3 ads and trackers. Now, I've not been using this a lot. I have been test driving it, but not as a default browser. It's very similar to the Chrome and Chromium based browsers, so I've just been testing it out. Now, I don't know if that's just blocked 3 today or overall, but I did go to places like YouTube and some other websites that I know that have ads, and it didn't block the ads. Like on YouTube, it would show a commercial before. So that's why I like installing uBlock as my main ad blocker to my system. So it does have a built-in ad blocker, which they say compared to Chrome and Chromium, that helps speed up the internet because it removes the ads. And if there's a website that's not working because of the ad blocker, you can add that website to your whitelist so it won't remove the ads, so that you can view the contents including the ads. Some websites are like that. You must see the ad in order to view the website. Tab suspension. This is another thing that frees up memory. After so much time, where you might have hundreds of tabs up here, if you're using a Chrome or Chromium based browser, it stays in your memory. Every tab that you have loaded stays in your memory, which uses up a lot of resources. You can by choosing tab suspension, you can choose how long that certain things stay in the background. That's not to say they won't still be open. It's just when you click on them, it may take a little while for them to start reacting, because it will start suspending tabs that's not used for a given period of time. It will start closing them down in your memory, freeing up resources. And you can actually go through here and say never suspend. Like if you have a tab open in Google, you can say that to never suspend something open with Google, and you can go through here and choose a whitelist so it won't suspend something running in the background for a given period of time. Here's your CPU monitor. You can say high CPU notages. So by turning this on, you'll get a notification down here, and you can click on it. It will let you know if your CPU is reaching maximum capacity, because sometimes when your CPU is reaching maximum capacity, it runs a bit sluggish. So it will let you know, especially if you're running a lot of apps in the background. Privacy. It's got fingerprint and defense that you can turn on, and it prevents websites from tracking you and recognizing what browsers that you're using. Now, in the future, it says coming soon, there will offer a VPN. I don't know if it's a VPN like Vivaldi uses or what type VPN they will be using here, but that's something that's coming soon. Here's some other things where you can control, like control tab. It allows you to cycle through your tabs here. You can turn that feature off. And then your account. I don't have sign up, but if you later want to sign up, you can click here and sign up. And I do have it set up for a personal rather than a workspace account, and I haven't referred anybody. But you can create points by referrals, I don't know what the points help you do, but there is for businesses. They can unlock additional features by purchasing things from them, or they can use the standards here. Here allows you, if you didn't choose to import, you can import from your default browsers. You can configure your shortcut, and here's another way that you can get help. So there's 3 ways: through the menu here, through the link that I showed you, and clicking help here within the settings. Here is also a question, show help. So if you click this, you can get a lot of help within the help screen here on the side. Here is where you can type your notes. It's got like a little notes feature, kind of similar to Yandex notes. And here's like if you're a business person, that if you're receiving notifications, you might have a notification with sounds or a notification that pops up. If you're in a business meeting and you're showing a presentation, you can turn your notifications off by clicking that, and you won't get any notifications while that's turned off. You can go click it again and it will turn back on notifications. Now if you look here, this is what the default home page looks like. Now it looks a lot different the first time you run it, depending upon what apps that you chose to put in here, and you can hover over one of these little icons and you get the 3 dots. You can come up here and you can, as you can see here, things that I've recently used. You can add an account, or you can go up here and choose to pin it to the sidebar. So if you have the sidebar viewable, you could pin that particular app that's here on the sidebar. You got a lot of things. You can say open in split view, do not suspend, so that if it's running in a tab, then it won't suspend it after a given period of time. You can customize and choose to install or upload your own icon so it represents the icon of your choice. You can choose to make it a private session, to play a sound. If you don't like sounds for when these apps get updated, you can turn that feature off. Allow notifications for OneDrive. So if something from OneDrive has a notification, it will appear here. It will show you like a 1. A lot of times browsers will show notifications up here. You can show a badge. You can also say hide from the badge. You got additional things that you can do here. So there's a lot of things. You can turn the notifications off here, or you can search within OneDrive or within the web application here. You can remove them from it as well. You can take and remove these from your system. You can right click on it to basically access it as well. You can add new apps. Now it will prompt you ever so often, do you want to set as default? I just close it out. Here you can add a new app. These works very similar, like I said earlier, to your speed dials. You can click onto them and choose, and there's lots and lots of apps that they have to choose from that you can add to it. You can even search through the apps that they have available. You can create a custom tab, or here's what I like, to create your custom URL. So if they don't have an app that you use online, you can put the URL of the application, online application. It's almost like using the Chromebooks, where you have web applications that when you click onto them, they go to a particular website. Here's where you put the URL of the application. You can put what application name you want. You can say add it, but before you add it, you click this and choose an icon. And if it has a default icon, a lot of times it will pull that default icon, and if it don't, you can go back in here and click the plus and upload your own icon. But I'm going to hit dismiss. I don't want to add an additional one. Now if you look here, I have almost 3 lines of similar type web applications. I can click here to check my Gmail. I can click here to go to my OneDrive. So if I click here, I already have it set up through my password manager to log in. Since I'm already logged in my password manager, it allows me to access the things within my OneDrive. And I can go back to my home screen. I can go to my Google Calendar, which I don't really have anything set up. Tomorrow I do have a doctor's appointment, but I have a notification somewhere else to send me that in my email. Here's my Google Documents, where I can access and use the things for Google Docs. And when I used to teach 6th grade science, I would use Google Docs and share the files that I created on my website, my 6th grade science websites. Here's the Google Sheets that you can access, and it will show you like the to-do list. And then you got your slideshow program in Google Docs Slideshow. And you can also just put one and access them from here. So if you don't want to make a whole row of them. Here it just takes you to Google. Here I can check my Outlook or Hotmail. Here I can check my OneDrive, which if I use it takes you immediately into OneDrive. I can go back and access my calendar within Microsoft Calendar. It'll take a few moments and it will load up the Microsoft Calendar. And again, I don't really use the Microsoft Calendar, very similar to the Google Calendar. Now, when I talked, I did use the Google Calendar quite often, and I would use my Zoho Calendar, and I would install it on my actual school's websites where students would see what homework assignments they had available. Here's the Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, the online. I won't click on those. And since Google uses the Google search engine, Microsoft, I use the Bing that you can click there. This takes me to basically my YouTube that logs into it. And then here's Zoho Docs. Within Zoho Docs, I can access these features, so I didn't really need to put these links, but I have them here. Here's the Zoho Calendar. Zoho is very similar to the online Google Documents and Google Calendar and Microsoft Calendar that you can use. And I used to use this calendar and embed it on my school's website so that students could log in and see their homework assignments that they had for a particular night. The Zoho Writer. I do like the Zoho Writer. In the past, I would use this with students to where if they had an assignment, they could access it online from home. And a lot of times I would create this from Microsoft Word on the computer at school, and then I would upload it in the Zoho Documents, and it was really more compatible with Microsoft Word than the Google Docs it would. So that's why I would use the Zoho. Then I would share it with certain students that would need to access whatever particular file. In this case, look at this test that was created in Microsoft Word. If you scroll down through it, it keeps the format. It looks very, very similar to if I was to open it up in Microsoft Word. So it's very nice and neat. And it does have, like if you need the editing features here, where you normally have toolbars up at the top, you can turn on and edit this document just like you would normally in Word. But however, this is not an illustration on Zoho. It's just showing you how you can use this browser as a working, in this case, if you're a teacher, you can still use it with your students. Here is the Zoho Spreadsheet. Now, you wouldn't if you have a grade book. This is just a sample grade book. This is something I found online. I don't want to expose any grade books that I have with any of my personal students in the past grades and names. So this is just an example showing grades book. You wouldn't want to share this with anyone else since grades are confidential. But you could set up a spreadsheet to work with your grades or to have a grade book. But most school systems will provide a grade book program for their teachers that will allow parents and students to log in. But that's just an example of a spreadsheet program. And here's the presentation program that works very, very similar. This was a presentation that I did find online that I edited, and it was created with the PowerPoint program. If you look here in just a few moments, it will load, and you can go through and make changes to it. You can make it animated, or you can go through it and use it just like you do with PowerPoint. You can click on whichever slide and it will change to that particular slide. So these are the applications that I have pinned on my home page. You can click to change and use messengers if you have different messengers. You can look at the documents that you currently open. You can click and go to YouTube. You can go to Google and see the sites that you've been with Google, your Microsoft, and TechCrunch. And you can also remove things. You can say pin it to the top or put a new thing within this list here. So I like keeping the applications. If you want to close these apps out, you only see one line. Then you say show all to show them again. This is like a chat feature or a feature to communicate with the people, the creators of Sidekick. So if I click here, I could send a message to the creators of Sidekick, and they will usually respond within a day. I could also go to synchronization issues, submit a bug report, or here's just if I have a simple question, I could click that on and send it, and hopefully if I've got an account, they could respond back to me within a day of the question I have with the browser. So this, lots of ways that you can get help. Here you can unlock additional features. So for businesses, they can purchase the full version. There's kind of a mid-tier and a full tier for big businesses that may use multiple web apps. You can click that and subscribe. Here's another help feature. Here's where you can share apps with others. Here's where you can get feedback, and here's where you can import your bookmarks and history. So they really like to make sure that you can access your bookmarks and history. Now let me go back to the website. I showed you how you can customize through your settings. We've already taken a look at all those. Here I showed you how you can click on those to change those. You can change, like if these are the default, you can remove them, or you can make them a different type of web app itself. And I showed you how you can switch them off and on, turn them off and on, and turn the sidebar. So basically what I did was clean them all out, and I clicked add until I added, and I chose to go through here and choose the ones that they had set up. So basically they had everything from Google. I think they had everything from Microsoft. They had the YouTube, but I had to add the Zoho. I don't think they was within that, so I if they did, I didn't use it. I went and set them up by getting the URL, typing the name, and putting the icons. So I customized that row, but they had those rows on there. Now using the ad block, built-in ad block, I did have commercials, but once I installed the uBlock origin, it removed the commercials from YouTube. So if you do have a website and you don't have a third-party extension add-on such as a ad blocker, I do recommend a uBlock, and I do have the links here. So if you install Sidekick, open my webpage, and you can install, I have the links above. Now here, if you're using it for a business purpose, I have quick starts. This will help those that are using it mainly for business purposes. I just basically showed you how to install it and what it looks like. If you want to use it from the business end, I'm not demonstrating that. So you can go through these getting started websites. I have other links to like a quick start, and that's basically the same as when you first installed it. Here's another quick start guide that basically shows you features, some of the main features of the browser. Here's to show you how to boost productivity and team collaboration. This is mainly the video for those business users and business owners that may be using it. This really shows you how you can use the power of the sidebar, which I'm not showing on this particular video, but I do have links that will actually show you. Here's some frequently asked questions and working with applications. The web apps that you have, this will show you how you can drag applications and put them on the sidebar and remove them from the sidebar. So I do have links to things that I'm not showing in the videos. And if you don't understand reading or the illustrations they have here, I do have lots of links to videos on YouTube that will demonstrate how to use it. So hopefully this video has given you a little bit of understanding about the Sidekick web browser. You don't have to be a business user to use the Sidekick web browser. You can set it up for your personal browser. You don't even have to make it your default browser. If you're like a teacher or someone at work, or just like to have applications that you use online, you might not want to use those links like that within your default browser, but you could set up Sidekick to use as a secondary browser to open it up to go within those applications that you don't normally like to have on your default browser. Hopefully this gives you a little insight on the Sidekick browser, and have a great day.